Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Soul Goals. My name is Dawn, and today I have the privilege of speaking with an amazing woman. I met Nicole Christner probably been a couple of years ago
Yeah.
through the volleyball world, like the beach volleyball world. And let me tell you, Nicole is a no joke person. She will absolutely help you on every level, give her 125,000% to you, to your kid, to what it is that she's doing and growing the game in the volleyball world. I'm jumping way ahead of myself here. Nicole is a renowned beach volleyball coach and recruiter within the juniors volleyball world. She works out of Atlanta, Georgia, but I don't know that you're ever in Atlanta very often. You're
No, I'm
I
really
was
not.
talk you're gone all the time, but what you're doing is, again, you're growing the game in such a really brilliant way. You do a lot of high-level clinics. You work with both professionals and high-level juniors beach volleyball, both with them and alongside them in many different ventures. Her life is so full. I actually met and worked. My daughter worked with one of your friends in the volleyball world this past weekend when we were out of town, and we were texting back and forth a couple of days ago. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that the two of you knew each other." I said, "Oh, you need to meet Nicole Christner if you don't know her already. Like, she's a volleyball road warrior too. Like, you're always on the go." And I think the thing that I love is that you have so much passion for helping other people and for getting them to the place that they want to be, that they deserve to be, and that they strive to be. Because so many times people don't have that ability to get there. And I understand now from talking to you briefly before this interview that a lot of that is innate in you because of your path and what you had to go through to get to this point. So without further ado, my friends, let's welcome Nicole Christner to the podcast today. How are
Thank you.
you?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well today. Happy to be here with you, Dawn. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. So, Nicole, like I said, is the busiest bee in the world of volleyball. Legit. I mean, we were talking about multitasking a little bit ago, but I really think that you got it hands down. And you call yourself a volleyball nerd too. I love that because you're always watching film or a game or something of that nature, right?
Yeah, my life is 100% like purely objectified by beach volleyball and by these athletes I'm trying to help, and just by growing the game in general. It's the fastest growing sport in the history of the NCAA, and me and hopefully thousands of other coaches around the country are working really hard to continue to grow, keep that growth going.
Absolutely. And you're doing a great job. Since I've known you, your stuff has grown dramatically. Your the camps and the clinics and the offerings that you do, the fact that you're on the go every weekend in a new place, offering your expertise and what it is that you give to the community it's invaluable. So thank you for doing that from the bottom of my heart as a mom of an athlete that I know you've worked with, but also multiple other athletes that I have talked to with and their parents too. I mean, I think without some of your expertise and your leadership, I don't know that parents and the athletes themselves would know the path to go to get them to where they want to be, which is ultimately you help juniors get to the point of playing collegiate volleyball and getting placed in a program where they can be successful and happy with the school and with the program and with the coaching staff as a whole. So,
Yeah, I mean that's what I try to, that's the big payoff, working with these kids from whatever 13, 14, 15 years until I get them into college, off to college that is, and just making sure that they get to realize their dream, and their
right.
dream and their work ethic is huge, and they want to play at the highest level, and I just want to help everyone get to where they want to go.
Yeah. And here's the thing though, this wasn't how it started for you. Like where you are now and this drive, I don't want wager to bet that there's a drive inside of you because from what I know from your past, if there wasn't, you wouldn't be here. Like,
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, we are we are a pile of our life experiences, and you can do with your experiences, either you can make them into something positive no matter how negative they are, or you can be a victim, and I wasn't the one to play the victim.
yeah. So I would love for you to share with the folks a little bit about your upbringing because as I dug a little bit deeper, um, I man, you grew up in Detroit. So I'm from Ohio originally, and I used to go to Detroit. Yeah, Detroit is no joke. Like,
Detroit, yeah, not the best place on the planet, especially where I'm from. I mean, there's parts of Detroit, of course, in Michigan that are nice. The part I'm from is more like kind of the Pontiac area. I moved 18 times in 18 years of my life before I
oh,
left Michigan.
wow.
So, yeah, where I'm from, not the best part. And
Yeah.
I actually my my life is a little crazy. My childhood was nuts. It was the 70s. I was born in 1970 in
Mm.
Pontiac, Michigan, but I was actually made in Thailand. So my mother was 6 months pregnant with me when they moved from Thailand. She actually worked for the Thai government as a translator. Apparently she spoke Thai better than any monk. That's what I've been told when I
Oh,
went back.
wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So she was my mother. My mother was a sociopath by
Okay.
diagnosis,
Oh,
but she
wow.
was incredibly smart, and
Mhm.
that's a thing, right? But some people
Yeah.
are so smart that they're a little crazy, right?
Yeah, well, the common sense element and other things that go along with it is not there's such an imbalance there, yeah,
Yeah, a great
understandably.
imbalance. My mom apparently spoke 5 languages fluently, and she had 2 master's degrees. She was insanely smart, uh,
Mhm.
insanely being part kind of the objective part of that statement. But
Yeah,
bless her heart, like sociopaths by diagnosis, like she didn't know right from wrong. And
yeah.
that's, as you get older, you're like, okay, I was angry when I was younger, but as you get older, you learn to accept, forgive, and let go. And she couldn't help the decisions that she made, and there were a lot of
Mhm.
bad decisions for being a mother. Uh,
Mhm.
so anyway, so I was born in Detroit, and it's a long story, but long story short, she brought my Thai father. My father was 100% Thai. His
Okay.
name was Prateep Tassamalai.
Oh, I can't even begin to pronounce that.
It's funny. So he had to move. He wasn't expecting he had to move. My mom woke up one day and just said, "We're moving to Michigan." And my father
Well,
thought they were going to live in Thailand their whole marriage.
that was my question. Why would you end up leaving Thailand? What was her motivation? Did she have one specifically, or was that part of who she was?
It's part of who she is. It's the
Mm,
world according to Mary. That was my mother's name.
okay.
So she just decided one day that she was done in Thailand, and that's it. So I have a half sister, Lisa, that was 4 years older than me,
Mhm.
and she also had a Thai father. Uh, just to kind of again, these things are going to be a lot of information about my childhood. So hopefully,
Yeah.
it's things that happen with
Yes.
people that are maybe a sociopath or mentally off or whatever, right? She couldn't
Sure,
help
sure.
it.
Mhm.
But she was so sick that she actually told my sister, who we found out later actually had a father and she was married to him. She told him that she told Lisa that she was gang raped in a bar in Thailand, and that's how she became pregnant with her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how off my mother was. She was just insanely smart, but a mess. So
Well, so how does that I mean, translating that craziness to, raising a child? I mean, you're an adolescent, you're a baby, you're a toddler, you're an adolescent growing up in a very inconsistent message household. I mean, during
mhm,
those fundamental years,
yes.
was it just yourself and your parents together?
My mother let my father, my Thai father, stay in the house for 2 years, and then she went and told the police that he was abusing us, and he couldn't speak English, and they kicked him out of the house and put a, restraining order on him, and he didn't understand anything, this poor man. He spoke
Oh,
Thai.
yeah.
He worked on the GE line or Pontiac line, maybe,
Mhm,
with a bunch of Laotians and Thai people that he could actually speak to when he was at work. But outside of that, nothing. So he didn't know anything. He didn't understand it. Last time
mhm,
he saw me, my mother remarried to a man. This was the 70s. It was the
mhm,
70s. There was lots of free love. There was lots
mhm,
of drug abuse.
mhm.
My mother was part of all of that. I think that because of the imbalance in maybe her brain chemistry or whatever was happening there, there was a lot of addictive personality
Mm,
disorder that, drove her to alcohol and drug
mhm.
abuse. And again, it was the 70s. So
Yeah, yeah.
a different time, right? And
Yeah.
so my half sister Lisa, and I were brought up in a house with the our adopted father. He adopted us in 1975, but he happened to be um, a bisexual, and was having an affair with a man that my mother also ended up having an affair with. It's very
Oh,
contra-
Nicole.
this is why I'm writing a book. It's
Because
very, very
yeah.
a lot.
So the question though is that like how old are you and your sister at this time? And you're being shuffled from one extremely dysfunctional situation to another extremely dysfunctional situation.
It
And
was
you're
it was
young.
yes, it was very bad. We were 6 years old by the time I truanted my first time. I was 6 years old. My sister was 10.
Mm,
We truanted, and I don't have great memory of it. I'm not super specific
mhm.
because PTSD is something that I lived with for a long time. So with somebody who goes through traumatic experiences when they're young in their cognitive years, especially,
Mm.
don't create a lot of great memories.
Yeah.
So I know we truanted and lived on the streets for a little while.
At
I
what
do
age?
I was 6.
And she would have
But
been 10 or 11?
yeah, yeah, she was 10.
Oh
And
gosh.
so we did find, somehow we found a couple that kind of helped us out there.
Mhm.
But then we were picked up by DFACS and taken back to the home. And then my grandmother called DFACS on them again in about 6 months later. And then Lisa and I ended up being made temporary wards of the state of Michigan, and
Mhm.
we were put in juvie. So juvie is for kids in unfortunate situations, but also for bad kids, right? And
Right.
Pontiac, they had Children's Village is what it was called, and they have J building for the kids that are acting out, and then
Mhm.
there's H building and G building and stuff like that for kids who are in unfortunate situations.
Mm.
So we were in there, and I was made a permanent ward of the state. And then I was adopted by a family who I'm not related to at all
Okay.
when I was 12.
Was your sister adopted with you?
No, my sister kind of went her own way. She kind of went the way of my mother.
Mhm.
Definitely, again, nothing wrong. Everybody should do them, right?
Yeah.
My sister's path was more that of a victim.
Okay.
And so she was constantly truaning. She got into drugs at a young age.
Mhm.
Her path was very bad and
Mhm.
sad. And
Mm.
she unfortunately lived a sad life, and she passed away about, I think, 6, 7 years ago.
Oh,
So
wow. I'm so sorry. And I feel like I wanna ask you, do you feel like there's a definite difference between the 2 of you in terms of how you approached living in that, condition, if you will?
yeah, yeah. I mean, when defects picked us up and made us and took us to Children's Village, we had not been in school. There was no power. There's no water. Apparently, there were drugs all over the ground. We just were on mattresses on the ground. I don't. I have all of the papers from the court system, so
Mhm.
I've read all of my reports on all the lawyers' things, my social file and stuff like that. So I know how they found us. I know all the things that happened in court. But again, I don't have a really clear memory of all of this.
Right.
It was a very bad situation. Again, I have bits and pieces of memory, but
Right.
not a lot of clear memory. But it's funny to me as I get older, when you're in an unfortunate part of life.
Mhm.
Uh, Now I tend to remember the good times when I think about maybe somebody or situation,
Mhm.
or even women. We've broken up with men and then gotten away from them because it was terrible. And then you think
Right.
about them a year later and you're like, oh, it was really nice. And you forget all the bad stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know why that's the thing, but it
yeah,
is. So it was weird that in my childhood it was just the opposite. I remembered all the bad stuff with
yeah.
my mother, and with my stepfather, my stepfather sadly abused us, and molested us. I mean, it was just one thing after another. I was an Oprah after school special, my childhood. But,
Wow.
and speaking to a lot of people that are my age that were, late 70s or late 60s, early 70s, there was no way. I mean, there was so much abuse happening back then. There
Yeah.
was, and there was no way it'd be uncles or, I hear so many stories right
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And, it's not like that's the thing when you're young in conditions like that, you're like, you feel like you're the only one because when you're young, you only have your perspective, right? You're too young to even look at other people's perspective, right? I
Yeah.
mean, your daughter, she's a senior, right?
Junior. Yeah.
Junior. She's a junior.
Mhm.
She really sees a lot of stuff from her perspective. And that's why I tell my athletes all the time, this is the time of life. You only think about things from your perspective. As you
Right.
get older, you start putting other people first, right? And I think that going through that when you're young is just feeling like, oh, it's just me. Why me? Why am I going through this?
Yeah.
Right. And the more people I talk to about things like this, the more I'm realizing it was a huge problem back
It was
then.
an epidemic. And
Truly.
yeah, and it wasn't spoken about. There's so many friends that I have in the same situation, um, personal experiences as well. It's a very, very, pushed down. It just was not something that was applicable to speak about and to bring out.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody could
So,
prove it. And that was the other thing. There was never proof.
uh,
It was an adult's word against a
against a
child.
child's word, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
do you think that's changed now? Do you think that's become a safer place for someone to for a child to say, "This is what's happening"?
I think it has. And I say that only because uh, now, like for USA volleyball or to be a coach, you have to go through something called Safe Sport.
Yeah.
And with going through Safe Sport, we have to go through all this training that really makes you listen and watch for those clues of maybe that
Mhm,
something's off at
mhm,
a household. And teachers have to go through the same thing. So anybody that's in any sort of educational system or system in which you're working with youth these days,
mhm.
we all have to go through training like that to ensure that we're always keeping our eyes wide open and looking for those sort of things that maybe a child isn't telling you, but you can see
Yeah, you
physically or in conversation with them,
yeah, you see those points coming out, so you're a little bit more fine-tuned to it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
likely is not too, since you had that experience, your antenna are up pretty
yes, for
quickly.
sure. Yes.
Um,
And I also think that just in general, back in the 70s, a child's word against an adult word, I think it's flipped now, right? I think that
yeah,
now, especially even with girls, it's right after the Me Too movement, and the world's just
mhm,
kind of a
mhm.
different place now. And so I think everyone's eyes are a little bit more wide open than they used to
Yeah,
be then.
yeah. Would you do things differently?
Would I do things differently? Like my life
Mhm.
differently? What do you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
No, my life is my life up until going full-time coaching in 2015 has been um, It's been a it's been a journey that has taken a lot of turns, but
yeah.
all of our stories have, right? My
Yes.
story has been having many different sort of, careers.
Mm.
A lot of people who know me, they're like, just tell me what you haven't done, Nicole. That'll be part of the list,
Right?
telling me all the careers that you've had.
Right.
So I just think that again, I am a function of all of my past experiences, and I'm thankful for those.
Yeah.
Would I like to go through my first 18 years again? No. Would
Yeah.
I have done it differently? Sure. Would I have been the same person? Definitely not, but
Not,
hopefully
yeah.
close to the same
Mhm.
person. Hopefully our baseline characteristics and our soul or whatever
Mhm.
you want to call it um, kind of remains consistent. That's who you are for your life, and it's a matter of choosing the right forks in the road to really hone in on when and how quickly you get to the person you're supposed to be.
Yes, exactly. And I think we're always evolving and growing no matter from that point of understanding about our story and kind of what that shaped us to be.
Yeah.
And we're still changing, we're still shifting as we age yet. I wonder, you said the first 18 years. I know looking through some of your bio, age 12 was a pretty pivotal year for you when a lot of things changed for you in a little bit more productive way. It was almost like when I was reading through it, I was like, okay, there's a light. There's a little bit of a light that's opening up for her. And it came in the form of a middle school teacher.
Actually, he was my sixth grade teacher, but yes,
Okay.
sixth grade is elementary school in Michigan. I know
Okay.
it's middle school in other parts of the country.
Right.
Yes. So when I was adopted, after I was a permanent ward of the state, I was adopted by a family that I was not related to at all.
Hmm.
And I went into public school. And in public school, my sixth grade teacher was Mike Lindstrom, and he was pivotal in my life for sure.
Hmm.
He was honestly the first person who I felt like saw me,
Hmm.
valued me as an actual human being. Up
Yeah.
until then, I'd kind of been used as a inappropriate for many inappropriate things.
Yeah.
And so I actually felt like he wanted me to achieve things and
Mm.
feel normal. I'd never felt normal before
Yeah.
in a home or in school or anywhere. So he was first of all an amazing teacher. He in sixth grade, we all know that maybe your focus is a little challenged
Yeah.
at being
Yeah.
11 or 12 years old, right?
Right. Yeah.
But honestly, all of us were always just like hyper focused on
Yeah.
Mr. Alt because he was entertaining, he was thoughtful, he individually saw every kid in that class. I mean, he was honestly, I'm 53. He's the best person I've ever met in my life. So
Oh,
he really pulled us in. And in sixth grade, he was actually the coach, the volleyball coach for seventh through 12th grade
okay.
in the area I lived in. And so he started having us work with volleyballs starting in sixth grade. So he'd get a jump on all the other middle school teams. And
Okay. He
in
was a
this,
competitor too. That's great.
yeah, he was really fantastic. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember he would drew really good cartoons. So
Uh-huh.
he'd draw your own little cartoon on your paper, for extra credit. We'd get up and sing. He'd have us sing songs, like REO Speedwagon or stuff like that that was on the radio back then, right? So
Yeah.
you wanted an extra 5 points on that? Well, get up and sing a song in front of everybody. He was just a
Wow.
great, really focused, personable
Yeah.
angel. He was really fantastic.
An angel for sure. I'm curious to know how that whole experience, so, like, did you initially jump in and was like, were trusting of him, or was there some trepidation on your part that was like, based on this, I haven't had the best track record with adults, so, not sure.
Yeah, I think he was the first person that I had been around that I felt their energy and not knowing at 12 years old what somebody's energy feels like necessarily.
Yeah.
But I definitely felt like he was an angel. Like I could trust him
Okay.
immediately, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody, right? I mean, it was a scary time, but I completely just put my arms around it and he just welcomed everyone and made everyone feel like such a great culture for
Mm.
a class, right? I mean,
Mhm.
in sixth grade, you're just with the one teacher, and uh, yeah, I don't know. I guess it was really I did trust him implicitly immediately. I think.
Yeah. And that culture that he helped to create probably, bound other people to you so that you can then connect with others. Did
Yeah.
you ever have any other situations where people came to you at that early stage that were in the same situation as you were?
Oh, no, no. I was thankfully for them in a great area, a small town of
Nice.
Michigan. That I think everyone was probably mostly in a good situation in sixth grade. Certainly, when you get to high school and stuff, I think that things change. Obviously.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you still talk to your adoptive family?
Uh, no, no, no. The father passed away. The mother was maybe a little bit looser of a cannon than my actual mother, which is
Oh,
pretty scary.
no.
So no, but I do speak to one of their daughters occasionally. We have a
Mhm,
good enough relationship. We don't.
mhm.
I'm not really good. I'm not really good with family connections because I never had any family.
Right. Right.
So I talk to them when I can. I honestly, you and everyone else in the country probably sees me and talks to me more than my family does.
Wow. How is that in terms of I understand, like, some people will say, "Well, I don't know what I'm missing, so I'm good with who I am and where I'm at." And I know that you're a very formidable person and you're very strong about what it is that your convictions and what your beliefs are. And I know that it's obviously based on where you came from and
Mhm.
what you had to endure to go through. But is there any time where you feel like, "I really wish I would have had that, or it would have made it different for me in some capacity?"
Um, I think I think in looking through that lens, that perspective is I don't think I would change that. I think
Mm,
that I was forced into growing up really, really fast, which in some occurrences is great and some it's not. For me, I look at it as good because I learned how to be a survivor really young
mm,
and be
I see.
independent and make this way through my world my way.
Yeah,
Uh, and so now, I mean, that's why now I'm in 22 states right now doing camps, right? I'm
yeah.
gone every weekend. I very much kind of live in my own world. My poor husband, I am actually married, but he doesn't get to see me a whole lot.
Yeah,
So, but I'm strongly independent.
yeah,
And as an adult, I haven't been taken advantage of
yeah,
because I learned these lessons young,
yeah.
right?
And it's that radar, your antenna, for you to be able to
Yes.
kind of to sniff it out. Do you I know you talked about have the safe sport situation with being
Mhm.
a coach. Um, have you run into any situations, and it's, obviously confidential, but have you run into situations along your career thus far where you've had to step in and be an advocate for the athlete?
Yeah. I'm more an advocate in ways. I mean, I haven't had any that are particularly awful, like any sort of thing kind of that I went through. I
Okay,
have had situations of girls of girls getting abused by kids that are their age.
got it. Yeah.
So I've run into that, and I am every day of my life, and I expect for the rest of my life will always be supporting and staying with my kids as they're in college.
Mhm.
And in college, kind of life changes, and I am every day on the phone with 5 to 15 girls that need some just support,
Yeah,
just
just some
support in some way
words.
or another.
Yeah, just some like you said, just some support. It's such a pivotal time. I mean, there's multiple pivotal times in our life, but when you leave what you've known for 18 years and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you get to do it on your own now. You're like,
Yep.
whoa, this can be a
Yeah.
little bit shell shock.
Yes.
So
They either put their arms around it and, you'll see those girls that either they take off with it or
yeah,
they're like, they kind of the first year they stay in this kind of stasis position where they're like, "Ah," right?
right.
Um, what I have noticed in this last 10 years of coaching, I've been coaching about 30 years altogether,
Mhm.
is there seems to be a lot more, um, personal mental stability issues now than there
Mhm.
used to be,
Yeah.
and I think I know I'm getting old, but I really think it's because of technology and
Yes.
social media. There are great things about it, and there's a lot of really bad things, and I do not think it's helping our youth at all.
I 110% agree with you. My husband and I were having that conversation maybe 3 or 4 nights ago about what the ramifications are for this group of people. And, like, within the last 10 to 15 years as a development of social media has come about and how it's grown and exploded with all the different platforms and the comparisons and
Advertising, you
yes.
know, it's
Yeah, and the advertising that's not
the
reality.
filters
Yeah,
and yeah, I
all of it.
just it's really not helping kids at all. If there was a way that it could just be used for good, that'd be great. But this is the world and we are humanity and there's always
Mhm.
going to be the bad with the good.
Mhm.
Yeah. I just all the time I say to people, if we could go back to the 70s, I think it'd be fantastic. And even though the 70s sucked for me,
Yeah.
I think it was pretty cool at the same time, right?
Yeah.
When I looked
Yeah.
at it lens that wasn't mine, I was like, oh man, 70s. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
No, I totally agree with you. I was born in that same era too, and it's such a different time that we're in now. I
Yeah.
you couldn't pay me to go back and do it,
Yeah.
like, in this time.
In
Oh,
this time.
no.
No,
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 wouldn't want to.
no. And that's why our support as adults has got to be even more heightened, right, than it was, but
Yeah.
in a good way, in a supportive way, and not in a, I don't know. I think that there's some people that have, I think there's some kids that can't do a lot of things on their own because they've been
Mhm.
so coddled at the same point,
Yeah.
right? Because parents are like, oh, when I was younger, I wanted this, so I'm going to overdo it, right? And so now
Yeah.
I see some kids that are just really entitled, and it's going to be it's going to be a hard go for them, you
Yeah,
know?
it's, that helicopter
Yes.
parenting that we have come to know, and I understand it comes from a real place of wanting to concern, wanting out of concern rather, and wanting to help and wanting to
Yes.
make sure that their kids don't have the same experiences, but unless they have the experiences, they
Right.
don't know any different.
Yeah. How can
And
you
it
grow? I
sucks
have
to
to
watch them go
say,
through it, but
yes. I have
ugh,
to say probably 10 times a week, let your little birdie fly, let your little
yeah,
bird leave the nest, right? There's, some flight isn't going to be easy, but they have to learn how to fly, right?
yes,
And I think easier before they go off to college than when they go off to college than doing it, right? It's easier for
yeah,
the parent if you can start letting them learn some lessons on their own while still, of course, making sure they're going to be okay,
mhm,
right? Is there a right way to parent? I don't know.
yeah,
I chose not to have any of my own kids, so
mhm,
I'm not one to say, right? But in dealing with literally 300 kids a year for
yes,
me, I I see such difference in some kids, right? The kids who I know who are super focused, right? They're hyper focused, they're independent, they have their own drive. You can
mhm,
see how much easier their paths are as I'm
mhm,
watching them travel through high school, college, and on to their adult time.
yeah.
I've seen it for the last 30 years, and I just wish I don't know. I'm certainly not an authority on how I didn't clearly I wasn't raised in a correct situation. And I don't know I wouldn't know how to do it right, but I just know those the pendulums, the ends of the pendulum are pretty
Yes, yeah.
scary, you know?
Yeah, I think you're getting probably a much bigger glimpse of the situation as a whole with the pendulum
Yeah.
and the swing of this person being like this person being like this, and where do you fall in between, and how to develop that skill to not go all the way one way or all the way the other way.
Yes. Yeah. You know,
So
it's funny in volleyball, you do it. I teach pendulum learning with fundamentals, right?
yes.
But is there a way, and I just in our conversation talking about this, is there a way to do that in life as a parent? I don't know. Is that the right way? Or is that the wrong way? I have no idea. I always tell the kids, I want you to know this degree and this degree and fall somewhere in the middle because that's
Yeah.
where the comfort zone is. That's where kind of that gray
Mhm.
area zone is. And
Mhm.
when I was young, going through what I went through, and when I went through PTSD therapy, I was a hard black or white person. And
Mm.
I thought that's because that's what you are when you're a survivor. You're
Yeah, yeah.
very, very hard line one way or the other. And I remember my therapist at the beginning saying, we're going to learn to live in the gray. And I remember being so offended and mad and just
Oh,
being like,
wow.
why would I want to live in a gray area? That is no, you have
Yeah.
to be one way or the other. And I never understood. And now let me tell you, I love gray. Gray walls, gray shirts,
I'm
gray.
wearing a gray shirt today for you, I guess.
You
Yeah,
very much. We did it together. Gray is a
yeah,
fantastic color, I'm just saying.
yeah.
So I kind of think of that in the pendulum, right? If you're black or white and that gray sitting in the middle. And
Yes.
I don't know what those answers are. You as a parent would know better than me. I'm speaking out of turn, you
So
know?
I don't even know that I would be able to speak to that other than we can speak to our own individual perspective and our own
Okay.
individual circumstance, but I think that if you look at the broader spectrum, like, like, you not having children, you actually have 300 plus children, you know?
Yes, I do. Per
Ma
year.
Males and females,
I do.
so you're crossing both genders. So you're seeing the capacities of both genders, with the pendulum, one side to the other side. That's where I think it's really interesting to get that input, because seeing all the different places, yeah, I don't know that any parent really has it figured out, you
No,
know?
no.
I think we're all just trying to do the best that we can.
I think
And
that's the answer. You're trying to do the best you can. That's all we
yeah.
can all do, right? It's just I'm in that outside lens, that third party lens looking in, and the kids will tell me things that they won't tell their
Mm.
parents, of course.
Yes, I was just gonna say something about that, because with you having the experience that you had in the past, you did not have a safety net, like,
Mhm.
until you were 12 years old, and that elementary school teacher, Mr. L, like, was your angel and stepped in, but prior to that, you had no safety net.
Correct.
So, you get to be that for other people, which is really, really a blessing. It's not just for the people, but probably for you as well, and
Oh,
getting to be
100%.
fed by that, you
Yeah,
know?
I feel whole.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a big I never thought in my life, in my 20s, in my early 30s even, I never thought that I would feel like a whole
Mm,
person, that I had an identity and a reason on this earth. I really never felt that. I started PTSD therapy when I was 32, and
yeah.
I remember the first day with my therapist, he said, "Nicole, if you were to, what would you say is in your vase? If you're describing you, what
Mhm.
what of those things are you?" And I was like, I don't I don't even have a vase. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what do you mean things that go in I didn't even understand it. Right?
yeah.
I didn't know what I stood for. I didn't have an identity. In fact, I remember telling him, because when you're so traumatized, when you're so young, at least for me, and we talked about this with other cases,
Mhm,
you don't, I just literally took pieces
mhm,
of people that I liked and kind of smashed them together and
mhm.
I felt like I was faking being a human.
Yeah,
Um, and I just had no idea who I was.
yeah,
And now that feels so far away from me,
yeah.
because I feel like I'm the polar opposite of that. I feel like I 100%, I 120% know who I am. And I
Yes.
1000% know what my identity is. And I
Mhm,
know why I'm on the planet. And
mhm,
that's wonderful, right?
mhm.
But again, with people who've gone through things like that, or it doesn't even have to be like that. Trauma can come in any trauma to me and trauma to you are two different things,
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
right? You could fall off a bike and that could
And that's
traumatize
a
you for
trauma.
life,
Absolutely, yeah. I
right?
had a therapist at one point tell me the difference between capital T trauma and lowercase t trauma is it's very minute. It's the
Yeah,
perspective, and it's the
yeah.
experience and how the person assimilated it and what they did with it. And also depending on your age too. Like it's a very young age that you went through a very unsafe time. So you went into protection mode for yourself, and you put things in boxes.
Yep.
So how I'm interested to know, when you started your therapy, the PTSD therapy, understanding and getting to that point where you could identify, I'm not outside of myself anymore. It's safe to be here inside of me, and it's safe to feel these things, and it's safe to know who I am, and I can be who I want to be.
Mhm.
How challenging was that for you to get to that point? Or was it like a huge relief? Oh my God, I actually get to be a person now.
It was very challenging to get there, but I love challenges and being a
Mhm.
survivor, that's just part of me, right?
Mhm.
I love being challenged all the time. Maybe that's why I'm a coach. I
Yeah,
just made you realize
it
that.
could very well could be.
Who knows?
Uh,
So I remember going in and he would challenge me all the time with the smallest things. The smallest things would set me off. One time I went into therapy and he was sitting on the ground with some Lincoln logs. Remember Lincoln logs?
yes. Yeah.
And I walked in and I was like, "What is this? Why are you on the floor? What's happening?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Well, we're just gonna sit on the floor today and use these Lincoln logs, and you're gonna just build me a house that reminds you of the house that you grew up in." And I was like, "Absolutely not." Like that shut me
Wow.
down. No way, I can't do that. I've never played with toys. I'm very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I came in one time where he was sitting in my chair and I was supposed to sit in his, and he was going to be me and I was going to be him. And I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. So
Wow.
I went through a couple of years where, metaphorically speaking, I was like, call 911. I
Mhm.
need to go to the hospital every time I'm walking out of therapy. Right.
Yeah.
So it was
Mhm.
hard, but I also embraced it. Like I went in there just like, oh my gosh. And, you just feel like your brain is mush
Mhm.
until the next session, right? You're just
Mhm.
beat up, you completely taken apart and ripped down and tried to put
Mhm.
yourself back together before your next therapy session.
Mhm.
So it was very hard. And I didn't know how to be alone and I couldn't stand silence.
Okay.
I couldn't sit in a room by myself silently because then all these things would come back in my head that I'd
Yes.
be pushing down and compartmentalizing, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
So it was long, but when when for PTSD, when you're going through the part where you're just getting beaten up, beaten up, beaten up, beaten up, and you're really beating yourself up the whole time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
As long as you put your arms around it, you're like, this journey is going to get me somewhere good. Uh, I feel like it was 100% worth it. The hardest thing I've ever done.
Right.
But coming out of it and feeling like I'm putting myself together and I'm starting to know who I am was amazing.
Yeah.
I actually wish I could go through that again. I actually love therapy. I'd like to be in therapy for the rest of my life. In fact,
Well,
when
I
I got
think
out of therapy,
it's a great thing, and I think that people underestimate it. Maybe now we're in a day and age where it's a little
getting
bit more, yeah, it's a little bit more conventional, and we understand that it's the meaning and the merit behind it, and then you can see the benefits through
yes,
your reactions and actions that you work through, and the stuff cleaning house, like you're cleaning
yes,
your house basically,
for
and you're
sure.
trying to let that stuff go. Were you working at the same time as you were going through all of this?
Oh yeah. I was working 3 jobs because I worked so I wouldn't have to think.
Okay.
So, I've always been really good at making money and
Mhm.
being a hard worker
Mhm.
because I didn't want those things to catch up with me. So, I
Yeah,
would always work 3 jobs at a time. So, I was really good at saving money,
yeah.
and for a kid who came from living on the streets, I bought my first house when I was 24, and I
Oh,
had
that's fantastic.
motorcycles and cars and all this stuff, like so, in that sense, I was very successful, and I was pushed into it because of that. So, that part isn't bad, right?
Yeah, and I think too that it's that survivor mentality that you go to. I know a lot of different people that have been in serious circumstances when they were younger that really had to scrape to
Yep,
find what they needed, and in adulthood are like they know the value of working hard for that
exactly.
because they didn't have it.
Yes.
Didn't have
I
it.
think everyone needs to know the importance of working hard by the
Yeah,
time they're 16, really start working hard.
yeah.
Know the
I
value of a dollar.
Yeah,
Understand taxes and stuff. Those things were not told to me. I had to figure all that stuff out all by myself. I didn't
yeah.
know credit. I didn't know anything. Those life lessons, we need to instill in them at an early age.
Yeah, and I think we're getting away from that more so than going towards it, unfortunately. I totally, totally 110% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
While you were in the middle of all of that therapy, working 3 jobs, was volleyball and focusing on that part of your life, like, did you know that I don't wanna work 3 jobs anymore, this is where I eventually wanna be, this is my goal, or were you just open-ended to, whatever is supposed to be is gonna be for me?
Yeah, at that point when I was working all those jobs, I've always been in volleyball.
Okay.
Since I was 21, I'd been coaching in
Mhm,
one capacity or another, whether it was just volunteer coaching at YMCA or
mhm.
whatever. So I always wanted to do that because Mr. L was always with me, always in my mind, and I know how much he saved me, and I always wanted to try to save people like he saved me, even if I could
Mhm.
just save one. So no, I didn't know ultimately that I was going to get here by any stretch of the imagination. During that time, I probably had 5 different careers. And I would just be like, I'm a person who, if the universe shows me something, I just go with it. Oh,
Yes.
you want me to be a chef? All right, I'll go be a chef. I'll be a restaurant consultant. Oh, I should be a personal trainer. Oh, I should be a radio DJ. I just, whatever. I
Yeah,
just go with it. And
yeah.
so that's kind of what's led me down all these different paths. And ultimately, I know this is the one that I was supposed to be in, but certainly back then, no, I had no idea. I think,
Yeah.
again, I was just trying to help somebody in my spare time,
Mhm.
make sure I help at least one kid. I always tried to, I used to get a hold of like outreach programs and stuff and just be like,
Mhm.
listen, I've got a great story. My life is a great story of how you come out and be successful after being in juvie. Can I just come in and talk to some of your kids? And
Yeah.
unless you're published, you're not allowed to do that, which is
Ah.
really sad to
Ah.
me. And I mean, I get it,
Yeah.
but on the same note, it's like there's a lot of people like me probably that would be good for
For
people
sure.
like that, and they just wouldn't.
Valuable. It could be even a mentor for those people as well. Yeah.
Exactly, which is what I wanted. So I think I couldn't do that. So then I was like, well, I'm just going to coach as much as I
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
Yeah. And why do you think volleyball stuck? If you talked about all the other careers and all the other interests that you had along the way, I mean, what was it about? Was it just that beginning and the fact that it was so fundamentally like the person that introduced you to it was so meaningful in your life and it was pure? I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think so. And it was my first love. It was my first passion.
Mhm.
I was 12 years old. I just tried to survive every day. I woke up every day just going, just get through this day, figure out how to get through this day, just
Oh,
survive it. Right. Whereas then I was like, oh, I can play volleyball and it's fun and I love it. And I'm addicted to it. It's
mhm,
everything. Right. And
mhm.
it was everything for me. Right. I probably had a 5-year stint in which it wasn't part of my life from since I was 12, and that's it. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's always been there, and it's always kind of been my thing, right?
Yeah.
It's my obsession, it's my passion, and it's what makes me happy.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of things make me happy now, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
not as happy as coaching, thank God, since I
Yeah.
coach every day of the week. Okay.
Yes. So you started in indoor because now you are a successful beach coach and consultant. So the question I have is starting indoor, what was your favorite position or what was your position that you played?
Well, I'm left-handed, so I was an oppo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was obviously right side, but then when I went to college, they had me be outside, which is
Mhm.
weird for a left-handed person, but it worked for me.
And
Um,
speaking of college, pause for just a second because I didn't know this until I went digging a little deeper. Miss Nicole went on a full ride scholarship to say it correctly, Winthrop College in South Carolina.
yeah, I did. I had some offers up in the Northeast, and I was just like, I had to get out of Michigan again.
Yeah,
That family
yeah, yeah,
the best
yeah.
situation. So I was like, just get me as far away from Michigan as possible. And I used to go down to, it's a long contrived story, but I used to go down to Hilton Head Island when I was younger.
Okay.
And I loved it there. And I was just
Mhm.
like, I just want to try to get there. I really knew nothing about the world, but I sent in my videotapes that I made, my VHS highlight tapes.
Those were of you playing
Yes,
the
back in
VHS tapes?
Yes, back in
Oh my gosh,
1987, and I ended up getting a full ride there, and that
that's
was
incredible.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
incredible, and all because of this angel that helped that you trusted and that stepped in and was like, "Hey, the life is there's more light here.
yeah.
Let's look for some more light here."
Well, and he just treated me like I was any other kid. Like
Yeah,
I that has never happened, so
yeah.
he was just a good person. Like I know he passed away sadly, so I know he's up there sitting with St. Peter in the gates of heaven. He's the best.
Yes, it absolutely sounds like he was, and it sounds like he wasn't just for you, it was for multiple people, and the
Absolutely.
fact that he allowed you to be a kid, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he really let you be you, and you hadn't up until 12 years old, you hadn't been able to. Do you just kinda going back to your biological father,
Mhm.
um, you said that you reconnected with him just a few
Yeah.
years ago, correct?
Yeah, well, it was not just a few years ago, it was quite a few years ago.
Okay.
As I said a long time ago, my mother kicked him out. So the last time he saw me was when I was 2.5 years old. And
Oh,
he
wow.
decided to stay in the United States because he knew when I was 18, I was a legal adult. And so
Mhm.
he stayed here for me. So
Oh.
My birthday's in February, so December 18th in 1987, when I was 17 years old, almost 18, he came and found me at my adopted family's house. And I never expected to meet him.
Oh,
It was
beautiful
crazy.
surprise.
It was a big surprise. And so he came and found me and then brought me down to Georgia, where I live now.
Okay.
Uh, that's where he lived. And there's a large Thai and Laotian and Buddhist community here. So he brought me down here to meet everyone.
Uh-huh.
And then I went off to college. I already knew I was going to South Carolina. So I was going to be way closer to him at that
Yeah.
point. And so after college, which that's another long story, I did not stay in college the entire time.
Okay.
I ended up moving in with him for a couple weeks and then moved out on my own when I found a roommate and whatever. And I've just been here ever since. But
Yeah.
the crazy thing is when I met my father, who I never expected to meet, my father, who's
Mhm.
from Thailand,
Mhm.
he said he was going to take me to Thailand to meet my family. And I was very excited.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up being diagnosed with primary liver cancer a couple years after I think I was 22, maybe. And I was living here and working. And it was very advanced because my father was Thai and he didn't believe in Eastern medicine,
Mm. Mhm.
Western medicine.
Western
Eastern
medicine.
medicine,
Mhm.
that would be correct.
Yeah.
So, one day I hugged him and his stomach was poking me, and I was like, "What is that?" And he actually had shelves of his liver was filled with tumors. So
Oh,
anyway, he went back to Thailand, to go see some Buddhist monks who he believed could save him.
yeah.
And he said, "I'm gonna get well, and then I'm gonna come back and get you." Well, he never made it back.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm never going to meet my family in Thailand. And my whole entire life, I was like, I have a normal family. They live.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wish I knew my normal family. My whole
Right.
life going through all that stuff I went through, right? And so when I was married to my husband, when I was 47 years old, my husband said, honey, it's time to go back to the homeland and
Mm.
find your family. Well,
Mhm.
we hired some investigators. Nobody could find my family. I didn't have any information. I didn't have my dad's birth date. I really knew nothing. And
Yeah.
anyway, long story short, we went there. I gave up any hope of ever finding my family. And our tour guide actually found my family when I was 47 years old.
Uh,
So
but like, it would like a random kind of
yeah.
they knew the situation, or had you
He
just
just
explained it
he
to him?
asked me why we were there, and I said I didn't want to talk about. My husband said, "Please just tell him."
Oh my
So I
gosh.
told him my story, and this man is a genius. He's actually, it's very funny. Our tour guide, he won like the kind of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire sort of game show. He was on
Okay.
7 times. He was like the grand champion. So this guy's
Okay.
like some freaky, weird, smart dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, he found one of my second cousins
Mm.
on what is kind of their Facebook thing, and
Mhm.
and found the rest of my family from there. So I went back to Thailand. I met my distant relatives while I was there on that trip. And then I ended up going back a couple months later and spent 2 weeks with my actual family, my father's closest brother, and met my entire family there.
Oh my goodness.
They took me on a tour of insane.
I
Again, I'm
mean,
writing a book because it's bizarre.
well, it's not even bizarre, but what a really beautiful wrap to that to the whole situation. The fact of knowing that you have family. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And you have a tight-knit family because they're tight-knit.
Yes. Yes.
How
So
did you
when I
feel?
went back, they didn't believe who I was, which is funny.
Oh,
So I had to tell my birth name is Benchuan Tesmalai. And so I had to go back and have the very few pictures that I had of my dad. And I had an arbitrary picture of an older lady who looks beautiful, but is clearly Thai. And that was my grandmother. And
wow.
anyway, so they finally believed me because Thai people always think that you're trying to take them for a ride. So they don't believe.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're Thai, you don't get out of Thailand. That's you live and die there. And so they
Right.
said, there's no way we have a relative in America. There's no way. So anyway, it was a great 2 weeks there. Um, I learned how much I appreciate living in a first world country. I can tell you.
Okay. Yes. So I've never been there, but I've heard the exact same phrase come out of other people's mouths.
Yeah, yeah, you don't when I went there, I was like, "There's not a position you can put me in that I won't be able to survive and be fine in because of
Yeah.
what I've gone through."
Yeah.
But I learned how much I appreciate
Yeah.
bathrooms and kitchens and running water and
Yes. And
stuff.
I would also bet that on another level, how much you appreciated a family. You know, I mean,
Yes,
like, it sounds very cliche to say because of the story in and of itself. But I mean, as an adult, and being able to look back at all the things that you've progressed through and the therapy that you had gone through to get you to a point where you can function as a whole, full adult in this world and in this community, and as a successful one inside of your body, not outside of yourself, that, man, that's a gift. Like, it's a full circle moment. I
it truly is.
How
Yes.
overwhelming was that for you to meet them? Was it just
It was it was very overwhelming. Um, I yeah, I couldn't speak. Most for basically the first 4 days, I couldn't speak through my crying. Like,
Oh,
that's
oh,
kind of all I did, but,
yeah,
truly amazing. I don't because they don't really speak English, I
yeah,
don't get to particularly stay in contact with them, uh,
mhm,
but it was beyond meaningful, and I wish the world were smaller
mhm.
so I could be there. In fact, USA Volleyball is there right now, and I was praying one day, hopefully, I'll be a coach that gets to go to Thailand and coach for
Oh,
USA
we are
Volleyball.
putting that out there. I got chills. You're going one day. It's gonna happen. It's
Please let me
we're it's yes, we're manifesting it for you right
I would
now. That would be oh my god. The pride that they would feel
yeah,
for you in that position, oh, and
yeah,
what they would give to you, it's just that's awesome.
yeah,
So, that support that you as that biological, real family and vice versa, what you give one another, um, you bring that to your work now. And the grow the game is such a big part of why you said earlier, this the largest expanding sport in NCAA at this point. The beach volleyball community is. When did you decide that you were going to not focus on indoor volleyball anymore and you're going to go that direction? Because it wasn't recent. You've been in this for a long time.
yeah, I've been in it for a long time.
Mhm.
When I was just an adult playing, I used to have an indoor women's travel team, and we'd go to nationals every year and stuff like that. But you can only play indoor court for so long
Mhm.
because, joints,
Yeah.
knees, you get old.
Yeah.
So when I was 38, I quit traveling with my indoor national team. And when I picked up beach heavily when I was 30 years old.
Mhm.
And so beach was kind of the prominent part of my life. But I just was still playing indoor during the winter months and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I was fully committed to beach when I was 38, which God, that was a long time ago, sadly. Um, so I started coaching beach when I was probably in 2008, I would
Mhm.
say.
Okay.
Um, and in one way or another, right? Maybe not, I wasn't fully because I was still a private chef during that time. So
Mhm.
it wasn't until 2015 that I was like, thank God for my husband. My husband said, "You go chase your dream. I'm going to be a corporate guy. So at least one of us can chase their dream." So
Oh,
he said, just go coach full time and, do what you love.
yeah.
Uh, God bless you, Dean Christner. Um,
Yes.
so since then, I've been able to just be doing what I love full time.
Mhm.
And as you said, it's just exploded. Much
Mhm.
the way a lot of my life has, though. Like I said, when the universe tells me to do something, I do it. So when the
You're
universe
in.
be a chef. I was a
Mhm.
chef that blew up. I was a restaurant consultant, all this stuff. But so then during the coaching time, all of that has blown up. This year's been an incredibly big year,
Mhm.
kind of the epitaph of my career. Hopefully it keeps getting better. I'm going to Australia to coach in January. So I guess it's going to get
So
better.
amazing.
But yeah, it created itself. I just follow. I don't create my own path. I just let the universe tell me where to go, and I just skip right along and just
Yeah.
try to do good things as I do it. I've learned in my life that karma is a real thing, and
Yes.
I think once you understand and truly know how real karma is. If you do something wrong, that karma is going to hit you in the butt immediately, like
Yes, it
the
will come
same
back.
day.
Mhm.
So now
Mhm.
it's like, I want to be a good person at my core just because I want to
Mhm.
be a good person. But the
Yeah.
reality is, I am so afraid of karma because it has knocked me on my butt. It's put me in the hospital. Like I am good. I'm
Oh,
only do good every day of my life
yeah.
until I am gone. That
Yeah.
because karma, she's
It's
scary.
it's a
Very
big
dangerous.
deal. And just doing the right thing,
Yes,
just doing the right thing is not it's not always the popular thing.
correct.
No, the right thing is not always eh, the right thing is a lot of times the road less traveled.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that
Very
can be
true.
super challenging to take that right-hand turn instead of the left-hand fork where the rest of the traffic's going. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And I know that you bring that to your athletes too. So you're not only just fundamentally teaching them the game, but you're also teaching them a lot of the mentality behind the game as well, which that's the but you just talking about the things that are exploding for you that you put your when you're like a door opens and I'm going to go that direction with the restaurant consulting, with being a chef, all of the other careers that you've had along the way. I think too, though, Nicole, like there's a big part of you that when that passion kicks in, it's like, yeah, I'm in it. How do
Yeah.
you help your athletes understand that passion for themselves? Because I think at the point when they're with you, if they're at that point where they're working with you or working alongside you in some capacity, they're at a point where it's like, I'm driven. I want to succeed. How do you help them without telling them this is what you need to do? Because they have to have their own path, but like guiding them. What's that look like for you?
For me, I think that at my camps, what I do with a good amount of them is something I call pod talks, in
Mhm.
which I make me sit down or another coach I'm working with sit down, and you have a maximum of 6 athletes in your pod during lunch, and we just get real. We get real in that hour or hour and a half, and I'll start off asking a question. I'll start off kind of putting it out there, putting something out there about me that is
Mhm.
maybe true and ugly, or whatever it needs to be to feel like it's a safe place for everyone to be able to talk and kind of air whatever they need to.
Mhm.
um, and I'll go around and kind of ask them questions to get them out of their perspective, because
Mhm.
that's what I try to teach the kids, is to put somebody else's perspective first. So I
Yeah.
started off by saying something that's truly will make me cry. I'm always crying in these pod
Yeah.
talks. And then I will ask them and kind of a somewhat easy question that everyone has to answer. And
Mhm.
then I hit them with what is the one thing you don't want anyone to know about you right now that you're thinking
Yeah.
or feeling?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
with your daughter, she's been in one of them with me.
Mhm.
And we had with that group that we had with her, we had some girls really, really lay down some truths that otherwise would never come out. I think truths, these girls will say truths that they don't even say to themselves in these
Yes.
pod talks. And so once I get to that point, then I feel like I know them better, right?
Right.
Every athlete is a human, and every human needs to be spoken to and treated differently in the way that's going to make them move towards that next level.
Right.
And so for me, I always try to figure out, what is it that you need from me? How do you need me to talk to you? How
Mhm.
do you want me to inspire you? Right? How far can I drive and expect greatness out of you?
Mhm.
Where is it that I lose you because I've pushed you too hard? Then I have
Mhm.
to have a talk that reels you back in, right?
Yeah.
Understanding those parameters is really, really important. There's Dean Christner. Hi.
Hi, Dean.
Understanding those parameters is really important. Okay, thank you.
Oh, look at
It's
him.
it is really is really important
Mhm.
for each individual kid, and especially these kids that are very focused on grabbing their dream.
Yeah.
So my job is to just help keep patting them on the side, or pushing them in their lane, or
Yes.
pushing them up, or whatever they need from the time that I meet them until I get well, it never ends. I've
It's
gone to
conti
weddings.
no, it's yeah, you're still having communication with them. You have a great you're forming a bond with them, and a
Yes.
relationship that's going beyond just the, "Hey, how do you pass a volleyball?" in a fundamental way. Yeah,
Yes, that's correct.
and I think that that vulnerability, especially for the group of juniors volleyball players that you work with, specifically, is something that is kind of an unsafe place for them to do with their peers. So if they can do that in a place where they feel supported and they feel whole and like it's okay to be me, then maybe they step outside of that comfort zone outside of that group, which then like then you just got the whole big deal of like sports make the human, you know?
100%. 100%. I believe the socialization aspect, the respect, the focus, the drive, I mean, everything to me, is and not every kid's gonna be in sports, right? But in some sort of a club that makes them understand all of those things, that socialization aspect is priority in
Yeah,
my opinion.
yeah.
Again, not a parent myself, so, you
Yeah,
know,
but your experience coming from I just continue to go back to that, that experience of your your situation and where you came from.
yeah.
Being here now is even more fundamentally, it's like my mind is like, "Wow, you could have gone so many different directions, and it
Yeah.
could have gone so differently for you."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that the big thing is that we're all born with a certain personality characterization, and mine is an A plus plus personality, right? So
Yes.
I'm pretty specific about everything, which is also the way I coach.
Right.
I'm almost OCD. I'm very, 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 very specific about everything. And
Yeah.
so um, that mixed with seeing people in my life, like my mother,
Mhm.
who just kind of disgusted me. She disgusted me, to be
Mhm.
honest, right?
Mhm.
And everything she did, I saw and I said, "I'll never ever want to be that. I will never be
Yes.
a drug addict. I'll never do these things," right?
Yeah.
Which is a big reason why I chose not to have children,
Yeah.
right? Because I was like, "I don't even know. I don't know if I could do it right, so I'm just not gonna do
Right.
it," right? But I know that having those seeing those signs, I was smart enough to see those signs and be like, "That I never wanna be. That I never
Yeah.
wanna be.
Yeah.
That I wanna be," right?
Mhm.
Are very important parts of dynamically growing up and staying in your lane and figuring out who you are,
Yeah.
right? So because
Absolutely.
I'm so specific and because I was so disgusted by some things that I saw, that's what pushed me to where I am now, which is
Yeah.
the opposite of what my sister did,
Yeah.
right? My sister was a type B personality. Bless her
Mhm.
heart. Like that's how she was born, right?
Yeah.
And she made the decisions that she made. A lot of them were based on, sadly, she was the victim of terrible situations,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
it's again the cliche of it's not a cliche. It's how you react to situations, right?
Yeah.
It's not the situation itself. It's how do
It's
you
your reaction.
correct.
Absolutely. And then
Yeah,
it's also knowing you go through those situations that are not, positive or that your perspective is that it's bad or you put a label on it for whatever it is.
yeah,
So say my good is your bad or vice versa. But
correct.
we have those experiences that we don't like and that don't feel good for us. It also teaches us what we don't want.
Correct.
You
Yeah,
know, like your mom and being able to see that side and know that this is something that this is a direction I do not wanna go is a real motivation too, to go a direction that is much different. Do you feel like that success and that drive, do you feel like that pendulum for you has ever gotten out of control? Like it's gone way to the other side? Or do you look at it as being a I mean, maybe you look at it as being as it's a savior, like it saved
it
you.
is. It's a catalyst
Mhm.
to success, right? And for me, that pendulum hasn't gone the other way because because of those baselines of this is the opposite of what I want to be. So I saw it,
Yeah.
right? And you can only drive with a person who has that perspective and has a survivalist mentality. People that I've spoken to, other survivors, you don't get tired. Like
Hmm.
you don't get tired of trying to
Mm.
drive towards what you feel like is a good place.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not working I am. I'm working 500 jobs, but no.
Well, it's a part of you, and I think too, it's probably a part of your personality that was
Mhm.
probably gonna be there anyway on some capacity, but that maybe that switch just got turned on, you know?
For sure it did, for
Yeah.
sure. So I am, in the end, I'm a very appreciative of the things I went through because I am accumulation of my experiences,
Mhm.
and that's why I am here now, and I am
Mhm.
able to help and touch so many families and athletes' lives, right? And it
Yes.
is what I was put on the earth for. And do I wish that I would have gotten here 10 or 15 years earlier? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would not have so many gray hairs that I have colored. Um,
But
so
you wouldn't have been the person that you are now 10 or
yeah,
15 years ago, you know? I mean, even with the evolution of the therapy that you've had to go through and the pieces that have popped up randomly that have probably presented themselves like, "Oh god, another piece of work. Here we go." That's
yeah,
gotten you to the next right space for you so that
yeah.
you can then be this whole individual for your athletes and the people that you serve and the community that you help and that you're involved with.
Yeah, it's a great community. I'm
Mhm.
really lucky to be here. I'm very appreciative of the people who've seen in me my drive and my passion. I mean, USA Volleyball has really been great for that, a great
Yeah.
catalyst. And I went into the USA pipelines kicking and screaming many years ago, and now I'm really happy that I'm there
Yeah.
and really helping to drive the boys' beach game. Now the girls' beach game is giant, and it's its
Yes.
own. It'll grow without me for sure. Uh, so with USA, I really work primarily with the boys, and I
Mhm.
really want that side of our world to keep growing. And I love working with boys. I've worked with girls for decades.
Yeah.
Working with boys is its own new challenge, but also
I don't have boys, I only have girls,
uh,
so I can only imagine the
yes, you
difference.
can. Yes, you can. But it's actually really great because the funny thing between girls and boys, girls who are athletes and who want it, they're insanely focused,
Yeah,
right? And they're very polite and focused,
yeah,
right? And they're not girls aren't naturally athletic, right? There's
right?
maybe 10% of girls that are God gifted athletic. I call them girl boys because they
Yeah,
have athletic like boys. It's
yeah,
crazy, right?
yes,
And then there's the boys who are God-given athletic, right? But they don't have focus, right? So it's the
yes,
polar opposite situation, and learning how to do them has been super fun. But
right?
for instance, in August, I was given by USA the great job of being the US 19 national team coach. And I was able to take a boys team and a girls team to Puerto Rico, where
Mhm.
they won a gold and a silver. So I'm very proud of them. But uh, when we were training them at the Olympic Training Center before we left for Puerto Rico, uh, I had to I had to do 4 sessions in a day, and it went girl boy, right?
Oh,
So I had to go.
you're like right brain, left like,
That's
just
exactly what it
boom,
was.
boom, jeez.
Yes, it's really hard to make that shift and make that shift 4 times in one day. By the end of those days, I was like, ah,
Oh, your brain had to have been like, "I
yeah.
gotta make it stop
I
for a
need
minute."
it. Yeah, like, I just trying to make lesson plans for the next day. I was like, "I don't even
Oh,
know. I don't have anything left. I can't do it. Brain scramble." God bless them, though. I love them all.
yeah. Well, what's next for you on your agenda? I know that you're constantly on the go doing clinics and trainings, but what is the next it's the Australia trip for you in January, yeah?
Yeah, so Australia, I'll be there for 3 weeks in January, and I'm just so excited. Apparently, there's states in Australia, which I didn't realize. So I
Okay.
get to go to many different states and, work with a bunch of different age groups, and with some, I guess I'm doing with the Australian Volleyball Federation and stuff, so I'm really, really excited about that.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I'm kind of hoping I'm talking to some other countries
Mhm.
about maybe going and doing camps there too. So I love the idea of being able to be a little international. I don't actually have the time. I don't have one single weekend off through March right now, and that's
Oh,
just because I
wow.
closed my calendar. I probably won't have a weekend off until August.
No,
So
you probably not, probably not.
probably
And I
not.
think that drive, again, I'm just gonna go back to it, the drive that you have, right? And the passion that you have and the things that you are achieving is because you are just you're putting it out there and you're
Yeah.
doing it and you're living it. you know?
I am, and I love it. I love being able to be I love it. You know what I really love? I love that kids are good with my coaching because my coaching is very strange compared to other
Mm.
people's coaching because I'm so specific.
Yeah.
I think it could go either way. And I tell kids that all the time. I'm like, look, I may not be your coach. Like, you
Yeah.
may not be okay with me coaching the way I coach because every single little movement I'm very specific about,
Mhm.
right? Where we all have something gold to give, right? All coaches are
Mhm.
different. All coaches see different things. And that's the
Right.
wonderful thing about being coached by as many people as possible, whether you're an adult or a child or wherever you are in
Yeah.
life, right? Having
Absolutely.
different perspectives and different fresh eyes on things is always the best.
Yeah.
Uh, and maybe I'm not the coach for everyone, and I'm totally good with that. But it lets me be the volley dork that I am, and the kids actually, like, stand with me on that,
Yeah.
and, this last weekend, I actually went and watched, 4 programs play in Arizona, 4 college programs, and I got to see
Mhm.
about 20 of my girls play at a college level,
Oh,
and that was a really, really special weekend, and I got
yeah.
to see what I had to talk to them about because they lost some fundamentals since
Okay.
them last, so we had to have
Okay.
talks. But overall, it's really, really cool watching them.
Yeah.
It's just this job has given me so much joy every
Yeah.
day. It's
And
great.
I think to speak to what you said, you can learn something from every if you're not someone's cup of tea, there's really something in there in the tea that you're delivering that's fundamentally a strong point that an athlete can pull from. Yeah.
Sure,
It's a
sure.
choice too. You can pick out those things that work and the things that you need. You can
Yep.
always find that from
Yep.
someone.
That's what
Yeah.
I tell them all the time. Grab that gold, put it in your
Mhm.
pocket, and you
Yeah.
take that with you. You know, if there was only one thing out of 5 hours of training that hit home with you, that one thing is a lot. Take
Yeah.
that with you, right? And then grab whatever gold you can from the next coach or person. You know, you're not if you're not an athlete, us adults, right? Every
Right.
person we
Right.
meet, there's a reason we meet them. There's a
Right.
reason that you're communicating with them. So figure out what it is so you don't have to keep on meeting them and them waiting for you to grab it, right?
Yeah.
The universe is
Yeah.
trying to make us be like, learn the lessons. We're giving them to you. Just take them,
Yeah,
right?
just accept them, and I think we put up so many different barriers to that based on our experience and based on our, stubbornness,
Yep.
right? Yeah, that
And
little
our
that
boundaries.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. When
Yeah.
how fulfilling that you got to see all those girls
That was
and see
amazing.
them competing at the place that they are now, like
Yeah.
and with the athletes that you work with now that say the current recruiting class that you're helping, right, that are you're trying to get to the next level would be the 2026s at this point
Correct.
to get them recruited for their collegiate years. What would be one piece of advice that you would tell them based on all of your, or them or parents, in general, based on all of your experience thus far as a college recruiting helper as well as the coach?
I would say to parents, supporting your kid and trying to get them as much private training from
Mhm.
any coach as possible is huge. If you just get coached by just going to club practices and hoping that that's going to get you to the next level, it's probably not, to be honest.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, you really, really need that technique driven personal attention. Uh, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And then I would also say that going to college camps, no matter what sport you play, going and actually going to a camp that that college that you're hoping to go to is holding is
Mhm.
huge. Coaches need to see your kid playing
Mhm.
whatever sport they play on their turf and see how
Yes.
coachable they are on their turf. So that's huge. And then the last is be the squeaky wheel. If you're trying
Mm.
to get recruited, you cannot email enough.
I love that.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. These coaches get thousands and thousands of emails per week, depending on what school they're at. And
Mhm.
maybe they won't see your first 5 or 25 emails.
Right.
Keep on. You're not going to bother them. It's up to them. They can open it or not. Right.
Right.
So don't worry about bothering somebody. You
Mhm.
have to bother. Perseverance is something that coaches love, right? They're like,
Yes.
this kid, she just won't go away. She wants it. She's
Yeah.
going to get in there and she's going to be great for my culture
Yeah.
because she's a go-getter and we need
Right.
those go-getters.
And eventually they're going to that's exactly what they're gonna do. They're gonna look at all of the if they don't open the 5th one, like you said, maybe they'll open the 25th one.
Exactly.
And they see that coming in and they're like, "Okay, there's something there's something to this. Maybe I need to explore this a little bit deeper." I love that. Be the squeaky wheel for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
in anything that you do.
Everything that you do. Absolutely. That's how probably I've gotten to where I've gotten and probably how you've gotten to where you've gotten. We
Yeah.
learn these things as adults. You know, if I could go back and wave a magic wand and be like, oh, Nicole, do this when you're 30, that would have been great. You know,
Yeah.
I'm here now. It's okay. I'm
Yeah.
happy. But man, I wish I could have been doing this 10, 15 years younger.
I know, but no regrets because look at what you've developed along the way and look at the toolbox that you have,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
I do have a really big toolbox,
Mhm.
and the world and the universe and all of my experiences have given me that toolbox because
Yes.
I have to tell you, at 32, I didn't think I had a tool in the shed.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, I'm so it's gonna make me tear up.
Oh,
I am so touched for you sharing so vulnerably about your stuff and about your early early experiences because it's hard to do that for a lot of people, but if anyone can hear the fact that this is fundamentally where you started, you had nothing. You had nothing. But it was a choice and you kept at it. You kept at it. That's that perseverance. Like that's what makes the difference in life. And that's what makes the difference in getting that job
yeah,
or getting that house or making that move or getting recruited. You know,
yes.
that's what makes that big difference. So
Yeah,
bravo to you. It's what and what you're doing for kids is great. Guys and girls.
thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
I would say I say to all of my hopeful recruits, let your freak flag fly, and I think
Love it.
that is big for everyone in the world.
Mhm.
Girl, let your freak flag fly. Listen,
Yeah,
you do you. I'm going to do me. As long as
yeah,
we're happy and we are who we're supposed to be authentically, you're going to have your people and you're going to have your haters. And that's fine.
yeah,
Be with your people.
yeah,
Haters are going to hate because they love and they deal with drama, right?
right.
I am fueled by happiness and progression and
Mhm.
future,
Yeah,
right? Where I used to be fueled by drama, right? Once you realize you don't need that anymore, you can let go, let your
mhm.
freak flag fly. You're gonna be the happiest person you can be. My flag has been flying for 20 years now, and
It's
I am
amazing.
very happy.
It's a relief. You get to be who you wanna be,
Yes,
and the
yes,
hope is that people earlier than us our age will get there sooner, so you
right.
can live that more fulfilling life. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I don't wanna let you go before I ask you some fun rapid fire questions because I feel like we've learned like a ton about you, but I wanna be a little bit more lighthearted and get to know a little bit more about the other side of the personality of Nicole Christner, if you will.
Okay.
Right? So rapid fire questions, about 4 or 5 of them. Are you ready?
I hope my brain's ready for this. All right, here we
You're
go.
good. There's no wrong answers to any of these. It's all
Okay.
good. All right. Number 1, besides volleyball, this might be a tough one for you, by the way. Besides volleyball, what is your go-to pastime?
Oh, that is a rough one for me. I don't do anything but volleyball. I would say food, cooking it
Oh,
or eating
wow.
it. Love it.
Okay. Yeah, you're still doing that though too. You have in the past, like you've done like little I know not
Georgia State.
clinic, but yes.
Yeah, I do. I teach classes. I teach nutritional athletic cooking uh, for athletes in college.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
teach Georgia State. I've always taught them. Brooke at FSU and stuff. People have asked me to do it. I just don't have time in my schedule. But I love
Oh
teaching
gosh.
classes. In fact, I am
Mm.
teaching one of those classes at ECC camp. Oh wait, is she coming to that? No, sorry, you're going to miss out on that one.
No. Okay, well, put more on the calendar. Put more
Okay,
on the calendar because I would love to love for my daughter to be a part of that. I would love and secretly, I want to be a fly on the wall in the background watching too.
perfect.
Yes. Okay, number 2. What is your favorite type of music?
Actually, it's jazz. Jazz, like the kind that makes your brain go, "Ah," because there's no actual track to it. I
Okay.
love that kind of jazz. I just love the idea. It makes me feel like when I hear that kind of jazz, I can close my eyes and feel like I'm sitting in the 1920s jazz club with a
Ah,
nice glass of wine in my hand and just relaxing.
So, like, do you feel like you were born in the wrong era?
I
Is that
do.
what Yeah,
I think that was my era. I think that was where I was
20s for
before.
you.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's like the roaring 20s, there you go.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know why it really resonates with me.
yeah. Alright, so number 3, going back to that cooking thing, what dish do you prepare the best?
Oh boy. Honestly, Buddha bowls is what they're called now, which is very funny. 10 plus years ago, when I was a restaurant consultant, I put a Buddha bowl on my menu before anybody knew what a Buddha bowl was. It was actually
Okay,
called a Buddha bowl. And
okay.
I had it on there and it was amazing. But so what they call bowls now, everyone eats bowls, right? So
Yeah.
that's I make different kind of bowls to prep for my husband and I at the beginning of every week. And that's also what I teach for food prep for when I teach college students how to cook.
It's such an easy thing that we just don't think about. And the
Exactly.
like, the combinations that you can put together, that's the thing that I would need the help with because 'cause I'm so basic. I'm like, I got my base, and then I got my protein, and then I got this or this. I'm like, I
Yes.
need other options. Yeah.
Oh, girl, we'll have to do a class. You'll see
I
it.
I am not kidding you.
No, it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm
We're
ready.
to create an extra day in your week to
I
be
know,
able to
right?
do that.
I wish somebody could do that. I would sleep probably on that day, though.
That you probably would need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 4. Do you watch TV shows or other shows that you download one episode at a time, or do you binge whole seasons at a time when you have the chance to?
If I had the chance, I would binge a whole season. It's hard for me not to. So yeah, but I probably only have time to see 2 or 3 at a time, and that's usually on an airplane. But I
I
would
was
love to
thinking
sit
the
and binge an entire season of almost anything.
Okay. All right. And last but certainly not least, this is probably a pretty redundant one based on all of our conversation for the last hour or so. What motivates you the most?
I would like to say growing the game, but
Mhm.
I think what motivates me the most are the individual athletes and families and their passion. And
Mhm.
just a kid saying, "This is my dream to go play at the next level." And
Mhm.
that's all I need to know, right? I have about 300 of those a year. And then that fuels me to get through the year and get them where they want to go.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I have loved this time getting to know you better. I've known you for a while, but like, thank you so much for being so open and so transparent with your story and
Absolutely.
giving people a glimpse into who you are on a deeper level. And also offering that information for people that may not know who the heck you are in the first place, but connect with you and your story of tenacity, of reaching out, and of making choices when you have hard crap it's going on in your life, you
Thank
know?
you. I've just had a great time also getting to have this time with you, Dawn, which I never get to
Yay.
have. So it's been fantastic. Please follow me if you don't, you can find me on Instagram under VB, like volleyball, VB underscore coach underscore Nicole, Nicole. Anytime I can help anybody, I really, really try to, whether it's I have people reach out to me and ask me advice because their kid's a golfer or
Yeah.
whatever. Like if I can help you in any way, I'm always willing to help anybody get to the future that they hope to get to.
She is totally not lying, folks. She will do it. She will bend over backwards for you. Yeah. So please, if you need that assistance, reach out to her. She will do everything she can. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for growing the game. Thank you for being you. And thank you for all you bring to our community for sure.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I've had such a great time. I love your podcast. I can't wait
Oh,
to watch
thank
and
you.
listen to the rest of them.
Yay. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day and a really great rest of your week. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Let your freak flag fly.
Amen. Bye, girl.
Bye.